Persona 5 Strikers is another one of those titles. When first revealed, everybody had a lot of skepticism, especially with the change of gameplay styles from turn-based RPG to the warrior style hack and slash, which is not to everybody's liking. Thankfully, we had a couple Nintendo IPs with positive feedback when they are presented with the same gameplay, and people say, let's give it a shot. By the time it hit me when I was playing Persona 5 Strikers, it was a last surprise. Persona 5 Strikers starts off 6 months after the original Persona 5 game. The protagonist goes back to Shibuya for the summer vacation, meeting with the rest of the original members of the Phantom Thieves. During the time in Shibuya, the region's launch of a social media AI programmed app called Emma raised in popularity. During the vacation preparation, they run into a celebrity meet and greet. They will then get over-transported to the metaverse-like dimension. This time, it is not mementos or a palace from the original game, but instead what is called a jail. From there, the Phantom Thieves explored the jail of the one subject with the goal of making the shadow of it to return the desires of ordinary citizens. Unlike the original Persona 5, Strikers is not played through the traditional turn-based RPG battle style. Although many of the exploration mechanics are similar and faithful of the original game, the gameplay is a hack and slash style with many RPG elements. There are a big handful of shadows on screen, and fight your way over as usual with many warrior style games from Koei Tecmo, the developer of Persona 5 Strikers. They will be encountered as they would in an RPG. During exploration, you trigger the battle by either an ambush on your end, direct combat, or they attack you. Both styles of gameplay are known to not be very linear, and Strikers is not that different, so it still takes more pointers from the Persona series, naturally speaking. The protagonist still has the option to switch out personas to use, and in this game, they are interchangeable mid-battle to allow strategy. All characters from the original game return: An, Ryuji, Yusuke, Futaba, Haru, and Makoto, plus Morgana. In Strikers, you get 2 new additions. You get Sophie, who is an alternative state-of-the-art AI companion who shows up and flies alongside you in the jails and helps you out in the real world through the protagonist's smartphone. The next addition is Zenkeichi, a public security officer for Japan who's known of the identities of the Phantom Thieves, working to have the group exonerated from yet another accusation of crimes in the story. Both characters' gameplay styles, once you are able to get them in your party, comes with their own specialty. Sophia's persona allows the use of blessed energy attacks and a lot of healing. Zenkeichi adds in buffs and nerfs to your teammates and enemies respectively. The layout of the jails plays similarly to the original Persona 5's palace. You explore and find a treasure. There are 3 of them this time, and you put the calling card in. While the original Persona 5 has 7 palaces, the sequel has 8 jails. Despite the number amount, the completion time through the main story takes half of the first game's time. This is even with some key Persona franchise mechanics such as a time limit to finish your dungeon and transition to the next level after leaving it being completely removed on the game in order to focus on storytelling. While it's very understandable on the approach given, it definitely does feel like the game's content was cut severely. Instead of different parts of Tokyo to visit, you visit big cities all over Japan. Exploration is almost on the same scale as the towns within Tokyo, but as the story progresses after finishing a jail, once you choose to leave, there is no going back. Not even towards the end of the game do they offer any sort of fast travel, so any specific items that were very usable for you and you could use more, too bad. You left the city and the online shops may or may not have what is needed because of the limited quantity per item. So I find this to be very disappointing, but at the same time it does add to the difficulty, which definitely would not be the same for Persona games and their difficulty. So I was able to beat the final boss after using up all of my SP and items for healing and buffs, so it was quite a close call for me. The only revisiting you get is the jails themselves, different from the original Persona 5 game, where you do not revisit the palaces. Even after completion of the jails themselves, you can still go back as the story allows you to do so, and this is a good nod to odd RGB grinders that isn't offered too much in Persona games in general. Definitely a lose-some, win-some scenario, I would say. One of the great things I did not expect from this game, for some reason, was the character development. while the Phantom Thieves themselves still stand by their base personality, whether it's hot-headed Ryuji Futaba's social awkwardness or Haru's formalities, you can definitely see that they're aiming their goals on improving their flawed traits as characters. And the same is the same for the two newcomers, Sophie and Zenkichi. For AI like Sophie, it is sure something to expect, naturally speaking. Naturally, Zenkichi comes off as someone you would think is going to be very unlikable in the beginning, but even early on, I'd say he's eligible to have his own spin-off just because of how great his character is. For a sequel that is very much marketed as a spin-off, that comes to a surprise for me, because I know that it appeared to be just a cash grab title, but it proved itself to be more than just that. The franchise's approach is very unorthodox, especially considering Strikers is canon to the Persona 5 universe and its different gameplay mechanics. While it is the same to be said for Persona 4 Arena, it is still a big change nonetheless. Despite that change, it still stands out in a good way, because the big picture is the world introduced to newcomers and veteran Persona players from the beginning. It starts off with Persona 5 in my opinion, and I think it does a good job at that. Would I say Persona 5 Strikers is a musou game? Definitely not, because it stands out so much, it might as well be just a typical hack and slash action RPG. I started from Persona 5 and played back its predecessors. I could never say that I find them to be forgettable. They are very enjoyable just as much. I think the build-up of the world of Persona 5 and the character development put in place will help many veteran players overlook the excessive gameplay changes that are far from being broken. I hope to see more additions put forth in the future, as both developers can indeed explore many other mechanics for future new IPs or being used for any traditional favorites.